so our first rule is going to be the corresponding angles postulate, and it says that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are going to be congruent. Okay, just quick review, remember that these little triangles here mean that these two lines are parallel. Okay? So if I pick any two corresponding angles, for example, angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding because they are in the same place. They're both in the top left here, and this one's also in the top left. And if those are congruent, and then we can signify they are congruent with those two little arcs, and we can say that angle 1 is going to be congruent to angle 5. Now remember that there's other pairs of corresponding angles. For example, this top right will equal to this top right, and the bottom left here will equal to the bottom left, and the bottom right equals to the bottom right, and the bottom left equals to the bottom left here. Now this next one is going to be a theorem. Okay, remember theorems, you kind of have to prove them. And we're going to use the corresponding angles postulate to prove this theorem, and it should be a pretty easy proof. It's not going to be a real proof, it's going to be a fake proof, but we'll prove it right now. But and this one says if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are also going to be congruent. Okay, now let me prove it to you. Let's say I have two lines that are parallel, and let's just take for example this angle up here that's 100 degrees. We just learned that corresponding angles are equal. So if that's 100, then its corresponding angle also has to be 100. And what do we know? We also know another rule is that anytime you have vertical angles, these vertical angles are equal. Okay, so if I get the vertical angle to that, will give me this one, and that also has to be 100, and therefore all three of these are congruent. Now if I just focus on those two, remember this one and this one, they are alternate interior and they are equal to each other. Okay? So on the picture up there, 4 and 5 are alternate interior, and we're going to say that those two are congruent to each other, and we can say angle 4 and angle 5 are equal to each other, or congruent. This next theorem is the alternate exterior angles theorem, and it says the two parallel lines are cut by transversal, then alternate exterior angles are also going to be congruent. Okay? And I'm going to prove it kind of in a similar way as the last one. Okay? Say for example these two parallel lines with this transversal, let's say this top angle here is 100. Okay, what did we say earlier? Well, we said that corresponding angles are equal. So if I get that top right angle down here, those two are equal because they're corresponding. And once again, vertical angles are equal. And which one is the vertical angle to this one? Well, it's going to be this one down here, and that one's also going to be 100. Okay, and if I ignore this one here, I can take that one out, and I showed that those two both are 100, and therefore these are congruent. Okay, and those are alternate exterior. So on the top there, if I pick these angles here, I call them 1 and 8. Those two angles will always be equal as long as those two lines are parallel. Okay, we can say angle 1 is congruent to angle 8. Okay, and the last theorem here is called the same side interior angles theorem, and it says that if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then same side interior angles are going to be not congruent but supplementary. Okay, so these are not going to be the same size. For example, even just looking at the picture, this one here is a same side interior angle with this one over here on the right side here, but they're not the same size. Why? Because if you look at this one, it is a cube. If you look at the bottom one here, it's not a cube. It's slightly bigger than 90. Okay, so they're not equal just by looking at them. Okay, but I can prove this pretty easy, that they're going to be supplementary. Remember, supplementary are two angles that add up to 180. You might want to put that in there if you forgot what supplementary means. Okay, and so we can prove it with the corresponding angles postulate that says that this angle and that angle are going to be congruent because they're corresponding angles. And if you look at this angle here combined with the 100, both of those are a linear pair, and a linear pair always add up to 180. So 100 plus 80 will give me 180. Okay. Now if I take off this bottom one here, what do I notice about these two same side interior? Well, if you add 100 plus 80, that's going to give you 180, and then making them supplementary. So on the picture here, we can see that angles 4 and 6 are going to be supplementary. That means that the measure of angle 4 plus the measure of angle 6 is going to equal to 180. Okay, so for our first example here, it says find the measure of x and y. Okay? And so we have 4 rules, and you can use those rules to help you. We can also use rules that we learned before, like vertical angles are equal and linear pairs. That should also help you get some of these answers. Okay? Like for example, how do I find x? Well, look at x. What is x in relation to this 110 here? Well, they're corresponding. This is like the top right angle, and that's the top right angle. And corresponding angles postulate that they are equal. So this one has to be 110 degrees. And then if you look at y, there's 2 ways of thinking about this here. Okay, well, one thing we know is that vertical angles are equal. So because y is a vertical angle to 110, then it's going to be equal to the 110. Okay, so that's your answer there. But you could also, maybe some of you have, thought about, look at these angle x and angle y. What do I know about angle x and angle y? Well, these are alternate interior angles, and the theorem says that alternate interior angles are congruent, therefore those have to be the same, and that's why y is 110. So there's 2 ways of looking at that. For the right picture here, same thing. Okay, what do I know about this angle 95 in relation to x? Well, they're alternate interior angles, and therefore alternate interior angles are equal. And if this one is 95, then the alternate interior angle also has to be 95. And if you look at y, there's 2 ways looking at this again. Let me write this down really quick. If you look at y, there's two ways you can picture this. Okay, if you remember, linear pairs are 180. And this one combined with this one together, that makes a straight line, that they should be 180. Okay, so if I do 180, take away 95, then that gives me 85. Okay, so y has to be 85 degrees. Now here's a little shortcut for you. Okay, you can try remembering all the rules above. Okay, you can remember that corresponding angles are equal, alternate interior are equal, alternate exterior are equal, and same side interior angles are supplementary. Okay, or you can try to memorize this picture below. Most kids like this better because they don't have to memorize. Okay, corresponding are equal and all that junk. Okay, you have only 2 options when you have 2 lines that are parallel, cut by a transversal. And the options are either the angles are going to be congruent, and if they are not congruent, they are going to be supplementary. So there's only 2 choices you have. Every time you pick 2 angles, they're either going to be congruent or they're going to be supplementary. Okay? And here's a good way to think about it. Okay? If you just pick any angle, okay, I'm going to start off with this one right here. Okay, well, that angle is equal to its vertical angle, and those 2 are equal to their corresponding angles. Notice that all those angles that I marked right there, those are all acute angles, and all these acute angles are going to be equal to each other. Okay, so like for example, if you pick this one and that one, they're equal. If you pick that one and this one, they're equal. If you pick that one and that one, they're equal. All those are going to have the same value. Let's call that value x. All the other 4 angles are not going to be equal because these are acute, and then if you look at this one, this is obtuse. How can an obtuse equal to an acute? I'm going to call that angle y. So angle y is a different size than angle x, but this one is equal to its corresponding, and those 2 are going to equal to their vertical angles. Okay, so either they're going to be equal, or if they're not equal, for example, if I pick this top right here and this bottom right here angle, well, they're not equal, but they are going to add up to 180. Okay, so either they are equal or they add up to 180 degrees. And that's the way I do it. And you know who else does it this way?
My mom!
Sometimes you will have some algebra stuff. And so, for example, number 2, it says find the value of x and find the value of y if it has a y. Okay? In this case, the first example only has an x. Okay, so you can either, once again, think about what kind of angles are they, and are they congruent or supplementary, or you can just draw yourself this picture, and those 2 are equal because they're vertical, and these are in the same place as these 2, and those are also equal, and now the other ones are going to be equal to each other. Okay? But these 4 are equal, and so this one has to equal to that one. Okay? Or you can also remember these are alternate exterior, and alternate exterior angles are equal, therefore 2x minus 4 has to equal to 92. And then if I add 4 to this here, then I add 4 to that there, I'm going to get 2x is equal to 96. And then I can divide by 2, and then I can divide by 2. This cancels, and I get that x equals to be 48. So the value of x here is 48. If you look at this picture on the right, it's going to be the same thing. Okay, so what do I know about these two? You can either say, okay, well, they're all, sorry, not alternate. They're same side interior, and the rule says that they are supplementary. Or you can just think about it this way. These two are equal because they're vertical, and those two are in the same place as those two. And so this, 75, is not equal to this 5x minus 10. If they're not equal, then they're going to add up to 180. So you can say 75 plus 5x minus 10 is equal to 180, and then you can do the algebra. I can combine like terms here. 75 minus 10, if I combine those two, I get 65. And 65 plus 5x is going to equal to 180. Then I can bring this 65 to the right side here by subtracting 65 to get rid of this one here on the left. And what am I left with? I'm left with 5x equals, and then 180 minus 65 is going to be 115. And then I can divide both sides by 5. And then I will get x is equal to 23. And there's your answer.
Yeah.
For the next one here, same thing, okay? Now, if you notice here, this angle and this other angle, they don't really have a name to them. One is exterior and one is interior, but they're not corresponding. And so you can do it this other way, or you can just memorize, hey, these are equal because they're vertical. And this top left and this bottom right are equal to this top left and this bottom right because they're corresponding. And so this 105 does not equal to the x minus 2, but if they're not equal, they're going to add up to 180. So I can say 105 plus x minus 2 is equal to 180. And if I do 105 and combine it with the negative 2, 105 minus 2 there is 103. 103 plus x is equal to 180. And then if I subtract 103 to bring this 103 with the 180, this will cancel, and I get that x is equal to 180 minus 103 will give us 77. And there's our answer. And then for the last one here, same thing. Just pick any angle. Okay, pick any angle. I can pick this one here, and what do I know? This one is equal to that one, and this top left and the bottom right are equal to this top left and this bottom right. And so what do I know? Well, I know that this one, 136, is not going to equal to this one because they don't have the equal marks. But if I do my 2 marks here and my 2 marks and my 2 marks and my 2 marks, this 136 does equal to this one. So I can say 136 is equal to 3y plus 31. And I can solve that. And then while I'm at it, I'll come back and solve this one right now. But while I'm at it, what do I know about this one and that one? Well, they're not equal because this one has 2 marks, this one has 1 mark, and if they're not equal, they're going to be supplementary, and therefore this one, 136, plus 6x plus 8 is going to equal to 180. I'll solve this top one first, and I can bring the 31 to the left side with the 136 by subtracting 31, and then this cancels. 136 minus 31 is 105. And then I get 105 equals to 3y. And then I can divide by 3 to cancel this out. What am I left with? I'm left with y is equal to 35. For the bottom one here, same thing. I can combine like terms. 136 plus 8 is going to be 144. And then plus 6x is equal to 180. I can bring the 144 here to the right by subtracting 144. This cancels, and I'm left with 6x equals to 180 minus 144 is 36, and then I can divide by 6 and divide by 6. This will cancel, and I get that x equals to 6. And there's my final answer. I'll leave you with the joke. Okay. Why does 10 plus 10 equal the same as 11 plus 11? Because 10 plus 10 is 20, and 11 plus 11 is 22.
Good show! Jolly good show!